Fallout 3's metro tunnels are a decaying artery of pre-war ambition, post-war horror, and environmental collapse, built for transit, repurposed for survival, and haunted by history. Beneath the shattered streets of Washington, D.C., they form a vast, interconnected labyrinth. Originally part of the real-world Washington metro system, these tunnels were designed to shuttle commuters across the capital. Their scale reflects pre-war America's obsession with infrastructure, expansive, redundant, deeply embedded. In Fallout lore, the tunnels operated until the Great War of 2077, when nuclear bombs devastated the surface. Shockwaves and neglect caused many tunnels to collapse, flood, or become irradiated. The decay wasn't immediate. Over 200 years, exposure, seismic instability, and abandonment eroded their integrity. Some stations remain intact, others are buried or submerged. The flooded metro exemplifies this, its pumps long dead, its tunnels filled with mire lurks and toxic water. Without maintenance, flooding was inevitable. Post-war, the tunnels became refuge and battleground. Feral ghouls, raiders, mutants, and scavengers roam the shadows. Brotherhood patrols and Enclave scouts use them tactically. Terminals, posters, and debris linger like ghosts. They connect key locations, offering alternate paths and hidden loot. The metro tunnels in Fallout 3 aren't just connective tissue, they're psychological terrain. Their design traps you in claustrophobic loops, forcing navigation by memory, flickering light, and ambient dread. The soundscape matters. Distant screeches, dripping water, and the hum of broken circuitry create tension even when nothing moves. It's a masterclass in environmental storytelling. Lore-wise, the tunnels reflect the hubris of pre-war America. Built to withstand urban density and Cold War paranoia, they were over-engineered, deep, reinforced, and sprawling. That's why so many sections remain semi-functional centuries later. But their survival is ironic. The surface crumbled, yet the underworld persists, twisted into something feral. You'll find signs of rushed evacuations, abandoned luggage, barricades, and corpses near exits. Some stations were converted into shelters, others into battlegrounds. The ghouls aren't just monsters. They're former commuters, workers, and families trapped underground when the bombs fell. Their presence is a living consequence of the war. Even the layout tells a story. Dead ends, collapsed tracks, and sealed maintenance doors hint at failed rescue attempts and forgotten routes. Bethesda used these design choices to reinforce the feeling of isolation and decay. The tunnels are a graveyard of intentions, transit, safety, escape, all buried beneath irradiated concrete. And yet, they're vital. For players, they offer strategic movement, hidden caches, and narrative depth. For the world of Fallout, they're a reminder. Even the most advanced systems can become tombs when civilization dies. The metro tunnels endure, not as infrastructure, but as echo chambers of a world that collapsed inward. Bethesda designed the system to mirror DC's layout while enhancing exploration. Though not all stations are accessible, the network gives players a sense of depth, a subterranean world beneath the ruins. Some areas were relocated during development to fit the game map. Fallout 3's metro tunnels are more than level design. They're a symbol of civilization's descent, once bustling with life, now echoing with death. Every collapsed ceiling and flickering light tells a story of ambition, annihilation, and adaptation. They are the veins of a dead city, still pulsing with danger. In the end, Fallout 3's metro tunnels are more than a setting. They're a descent. A descent into history, into horror, into the remnants of a world that thought it could outbuild the apocalypse. They're claustrophobic, hostile, and layered with meaning. Every flicker of light, every collapsed track, every ghoul in the dark reminds you, this was once a lifeline. Now it's a grave. And yet, you walk it, not just to survive, but to understand what survival costs. Fallout 3's metro tunnels offer the player a distinct experience that sets them apart from any other environment in the game. They are not just underground corridors. They are immersive, atmospheric spaces that challenge navigation, evoke dread, and deepen the narrative texture of the capital wasteland. The moment a player enters the metro system, the tone shifts dramatically. The openness of the surface world is replaced by claustrophobic passageways, dim lighting, and the constant threat of ambush. The sound design reinforces this tension. Distant echoes, dripping water, the hum of broken machinery, and the sudden screeches of feral ghouls create a sonic landscape that's as oppressive as it is immersive. These tunnels are semi-connected, forming a fractured web beneath the ruins of Washington, D.C. Some stations link directly to major surface locations, offering alternate routes and tactical advantages. Others are isolated, collapsed, or flooded, reinforcing the sense that this once functional system has been broken by war and time. The fragmentation is deliberate. Bethesda designed the Metro to feel like a cohesive network while ensuring that players couldn't rely on it as a shortcut for every journey. Instead, it becomes a puzzle, one that rewards memory, exploration, and risk-taking. Each tunnel and station has its own identity. Some are overrun by ghouls, their silence broken only by the shuffle of undead feet. Others are occupied by raiders, marked by graffiti, traps, and makeshift barricades. A few are flooded, filled with irradiated water and mirelurks. These environmental differences aren't just cosmetic. They affect gameplay, enemy behavior, and player strategy. The flooded metro, for example, forces players to navigate submerged passages and deal with aquatic threats, while ghoul-infested stations demand quick reflexes and close-quarters combat. Raider-controlled tunnels often include traps and ambush points, turning navigation into a deadly game of anticipation. The tunnels also serve as a repository of environmental storytelling. Scattered throughout are remnants of pre-war life: abandoned luggage, skeletons slumped near exits, terminals still logged in, posters advertising long-defunct services. These details build a picture of a world that collapsed suddenly and violently. Some stations show signs of attempted refuge: barricades, supply caches, and notes left behind. Others are untouched, frozen in time. The presence of ghouls in station uniforms suggests that many were trapped when the bombs fell, transforming into monsters over decades of exposure and isolation. These narrative fragments don't require dialogue or exposition. They're embedded in the world, waiting to be discovered. From a gameplay perspective, the Metro tunnels offer strategic depth. They allow players to bypass surface threats, engage in stealth, and access hidden loot. The confined spaces make mines and traps more effective, and the predictable enemy types, mostly melee-focused, enable tactical planning. The tunnels also serve as quest routes, guiding players to otherwise inaccessible areas and adding layers of complexity to mission design. Their layout often includes multiple tiers, collapsed stairwells, and hidden alcoves, rewarding thorough exploration with valuable resources and lore. Despite their visual similarities, no two tunnels are exactly alike. Lighting, enemy placement, environmental hazards, and narrative cues vary from station to station. Some tunnels are brightly lit with flickering fluorescence. Others are nearly pitch black. Some include functional terminals with security overrides or lore entries, while others are stripped bare. These variations prevent monotony and ensure that each descent into the Metro feels fresh, dangerous, and narratively rich. Symbolically, the Metro tunnels represent the collapse of civilization's connective tissue. Once arteries of movement and order, they've become tombs and battlegrounds. Their persistence is ironic. Built to withstand urban density and Cold War paranoia, they outlasted the surface world. But their survival is twisted. They no longer serve their intended purpose. Instead, they endure as haunted relics, echoing with the memories of a society that thought it could outbuild the apocalypse. For the player, this symbolism matters. Every time you enter the Metro, you're not just navigating a dungeon. You're confronting the remnants of a world that failed. You see its ambition, its desperation, and its transformation. The tunnels are a descent into history, into horror, into the psyche of a broken world. They challenge you to survive, to adapt, and to listen, because even in ruin, the world remembers. And beneath the surface, it waits. The Metro tunnels in Fallout 3 exert a profound influence on the game's emotional tone, pacing, and narrative structure. They are not simply underground paths. They are mood chambers, memory vaults, and psychological tests. Their presence reshapes how players experience the capital wasteland, offering a stark contrast to the open-air desolation above. Where the surface world is vast and scorched, The tunnels are tight, dark, and suffocating. This shift in spatial design evokes a different kind of fear, not the fear of being hunted in the open, but the fear of being trapped, cornered, and forgotten. The emotional impact of the tunnels is immediate. As players descend, they leave behind the sun-bleached ruins and enter a world of flickering lights, rusted metal, and ambient dread. The soundscape is engineered to unsettle. Distant screeches, the clatter of debris, the low hum of dead electricity. Even when no enemies are present, the tunnels feel hostile. The player's flashlight becomes a lifeline, illuminating only a few feet ahead while shadows stretch endlessly beyond. This limited visibility heightens tension, forcing players to rely on sound, memory, and instinct. The game rarely telegraphs danger in the metro. Ambushes are sudden, and escape routes are few. This atmosphere is not just aesthetic, it's thematic. The metro tunnels represent the collapse of order, the failure of infrastructure, and the transformation of safety into danger. They were built to connect, to protect, to serve. Now they isolate, threaten, and decay. The emotional resonance comes from this inversion. Players walk through spaces designed for life and movement, now filled with death and stagnation. The tunnels are haunted not by ghosts, but by the memory of purpose. Every broken escalator, every abandoned bench, every flickering terminal reminds the player that this was once a functioning system, that it failed. Narratively, the tunnels are rich with implication. While few major quests are centered entirely within them, they often serve as critical paths or hidden routes for key missions. For example, the quest, The Waters of Life, involves navigating through metro tunnels to reach Project Purity. The tunnels here are not just obstacles, they are symbolic thresholds. The player moves through darkness to reach a place of hope, reinforcing the theme of rebirth through struggle. Similarly, Riley's Rangers requires the player to rescue a trapped mercenary team in the Statesman Hotel, accessible via the metro. The journey through the tunnels is perilous, filled with super mutants and collapsed passages, but it also reveals the resilience of those who refuse to die quietly. Notable characters rarely live in the tunnels, but they pass through them, fight in them, or die in them. Feral ghouls are the most common inhabitants. Once human, now monstrous, they embody the tunnel's transformation. Their presence is tragic. Many wear remnants of pre-war uniforms, suggesting they were metro workers or commuters caught in the blast. Their mindless aggression is not just gameplay, it's narrative. They are the tunnel's legacy, twisted by radiation and time. Raiders also inhabit the tunnels, using them as hideouts and ambush points. Their graffiti, traps, and makeshift camps show how post-war society repurposes decay. They don't rebuild, they infest. Occasionally, players encounter terminals or notes that hint at individual stories. A maintenance worker's final log, a commuter's unsent message, a security override left active. All these fragments build a mosaic of lives interrupted. These characters don't speak, but they are present. Their absence is felt in the objects they left behind. The metro tunnels become a graveyard of intentions, each station a memorial to what was supposed to be. From a gameplay standpoint, the tunnels affect pacing and decision-making. Players must weigh the risk of entering them against the potential rewards. Surface travel is faster and more open, but exposed. Tunnels are slower, more dangerous, but often lead to hidden caches, alternate exits, or quest-critical locations. This choice adds depth to exploration. The game doesn't force tunnel traversal, it tempts it. And when players accept, they enter a different rhythm. Movement becomes cautious. Combat becomes close quarters. Progress becomes uncertain. The tunnels also serve as a spatial metaphor. Fallout 3 is a game about descent, into ruins, into history, into moral ambiguity. The metro system literalizes this descent. Players go underground not just physically, but emotionally. They confront the remnants of civilization, the consequences of war, and the persistence of memory. The tunnels are not just places, they are experiences. They shape how players feel, how they think, and how they remember the game. Even the design of the tunnels reinforces this impact. They are not uniform. Some are wide and multi-tiered, others are narrow and crumbling. Some have working lights. There's something about Fallout 3's metro tunnels that burrows into the psyche and refuses to let go. They're not just a part of the game world. They are the game world, distilled into its most oppressive, haunting, and unforgettable form. For me, they stand as one of the greatest environmental achievements in any game I've ever played. The atmosphere they generate is unmatched. It's not just dark, it's suffocating. Not just eerie, it's psychologically invasive. These tunnels don't just unsettle you, they trap you in a mood, a rhythm, a mindset that's hard to shake even after you've resurfaced. Every time I enter the metro, I feel like I'm descending into something ancient and wrong. The air feels heavier. The walls seem to close in. The lighting, flickering, unreliable, often absent, forces me to rely on instinct and memory. And even after dozens of playthroughs, I still find myself slowing down, creeping forward, scanning the floor for pressure plates or tripwires. It's not paranoia, it's earned caution. Fallout 3's tunnel design is so meticulous, so hostile, that even after 100 passes through the same corridor, I still feel like I could get caught out. A frag mine tucked behind a bench. A raider trap I forgot about. A feral ghoul that wasn't there last time. The game weaponizes familiarity, turning repetition into tension. That's the genius of these tunnels. They never feel safe. Not once. Not even when you're over-leveled, overarmed, and overconfident. The layout is deliberately disorienting. Long stretches of sameness broken by sudden collapse, flooded chambers, or dead ends. You think you know the way, and then you're lost. You think you've cleared the area, and then something moves. The game doesn't need jump scares, it has presence. The tunnels feel alive, but not in a comforting way. They feel like they're watching you, waiting. This oppressive atmosphere is one of the many reasons I hold Fallout 3 above Fallout New Vegas. Don't get me wrong, New Vegas has its strengths. Its writing, faction dynamics, and quest design are top tier. But it never made me feel the way Fallout 3's metro tunnels do. New Vegas is dry, open, and sun-bleached. Fallout 3 is wet, dark, and claustrophobic. The difference isn't just aesthetic, it's emotional. New Vegas lets you breathe. Fallout 3 makes you choke. And I prefer the choke. The metro tunnels are a masterclass in environmental storytelling. You don't need exposition. You don't need dialogue. You just need to walk. A skeleton slumped against a terminal. A child's toy on a bench. A barricade that failed. These fragments tell stories more powerful than any quest log. They speak of panic, desperation, and decay. And they're everywhere. The tunnels are littered with memory, and every time I pass through, I find something I missed. A note, a terminal entry, a layout that suddenly makes sense. The tunnels reward attention, and they punish complacency. Even the enemy placement is brilliant. Feral ghouls aren't just combatants, they're echoes. Many wear remnants of metro uniforms, suggesting they were workers or commuters caught in the blast. Their presence is tragic, not just threatening. Raiders use the tunnels too, but they don't own them. They infest them. Their graffiti, traps, and camps feel invasive, like parasites feeding off a corpse. And then there are the mirelurks in the flooded sections. Alien, silent, and terrifying. Each enemy type reinforces the mood. You're not just fighting for survival. You're fighting through history. Fallout 3's metro system also affects gameplay in ways New Vegas never replicates. It changes how you move, how you plan, how you think. On the surface, you can see threats coming. Underground, you react. You adapt. You learn to listen for footsteps, to watch for tripwires, to memorize layouts. The tunnels force you to play differently. They slow you down, not because they're tedious, but because they demand respect. You don't rush through the metro. You crawl. And that crawling is addictive. I've walked through these tunnels more times than I can count, and they still grip me, still intimidate me, still make me second-guess every step. That's rare. Most game environments lose their edge after a few visits. Fallout 3's metro tunnels sharpen theirs. They get under your skin. They become ritual. I find myself revisiting them not for loot or XP, but for the feeling. That oppressive, scary, intimidating feeling that no other game has matched. New Vegas, for all its brilliance, never gave me that. Its dungeons are sparse, its interiors forgettable. It's a game of ideas, not atmosphere. Fallout 3 is the opposite. It's a mood piece, a tone poem, and the metro tunnels are its chorus. They sing of ruin, of fear, of memory. And I listen, every time. So yes, these tunnels are some of my favorite in any game. Not because they're fun, not because they're rewarding, but because they matter. There's a particular aesthetic resonance in Fallout 3's game engine that makes its metro tunnels feel uniquely foreboding. Something deep in the way light, sound, and geometry are rendered that amplifies dread beyond what the assets alone suggest. It's not just the textures or the models. It's the way the engine handles shadow fall-off, the grainy ambient occlusion, the flicker of dying fluorescence, and the echoing reverb of footsteps in narrow corridors. The Gamebryo engine, for all its quirks, has a rawness to it, a kind of visual grime and sonic murk that turns every underground space into a psychological pressure chamber. The tunnels don't just look abandoned. They feel like they're holding their breath. That aesthetic isn't clean or polished. It's jagged, imperfect, and deeply atmospheric. The lighting isn't cinematic. It's functional, industrial, and failing. You'll walk into a station and see a single flickering bulb casting warped shadows across a blood-stained wall. You'll hear a distant screech that might be a ghoul or just the metal settling. The engine doesn't over-explain. It lets decay speak for itself. And that restraint is powerful. It leaves room for imagination, for paranoia, for the kind of fear that isn't scripted but emerges organically from the environment. There's also something about the geometry of the tunnels, the way they twist, loop, and collapse, that feels oppressive in a way few other games manage. The corridors are narrow but not uniform. Some curve slightly, some dip, some open into wide chambers that feel too quiet. The engine renders these spaces with a kind of spatial ambiguity. You're never quite sure how far the next corner stretches or whether the shadows ahead are just shadows. The draw distance underground is short, but the psychological distance is vast. You feel like you're walking into something ancient, something that remembers. And that's the emotional core of it. These tunnels remember. They were once filled with life. Commuters rushing to work, children holding their parents' hands, workers in orange vests maintaining the tracks. The benches, the turnstiles, the vending machines, they're all still there, but they're covered in dust, rust, and blood. The terminals still flicker with pre-war messages. The posters still advertise concerts and safety drills. It's not just desolation, it's interrupted life. The war didn't erase the metro, it froze it. And now, 2 centuries later, you walk through its remains like an archaeologist of catastrophe. That contrast between what was and what is what makes the tunnels so haunting. You're not just exploring ruins. You're trespassing in memory. Every skeleton slumped against a wall is a story. Every barricade is a last stand. Every locked door is a failed escape. The game doesn't need to tell you these things. The engine shows you. The aesthetic carries it. The grime, the lighting, the sound, it all converges into a mood that's uniquely Fallout 3. It's not horror in the traditional sense. It's existential unease. It's the weight of history pressing down on every step. And it's why I keep returning. Not for loot, not for XP, but for that feeling, that sense that I'm walking through something that matters. Something that once pulsed with life and now echoes with loss. The tunnels are a microcosm of Fallout 3's entire philosophy, that the apocalypse isn't just destruction, it's memory, frozen and decaying. New Vegas, for all its strengths, doesn't evoke this. Its spaces are cleaner, brighter, more alive. Fallout 3's metro tunnels are dead, and that death is textured, layered, and emotionally resonant. Even after countless playthroughs, I still find myself slowing down in the tunnels, still scanning for mines, still listening for ghouls, still feeling that chill when the music drops out and all I hear is my own footsteps. The engine makes that possible. It doesn't just render space, it renders absence. And that absence is what makes the tunnels so powerful. They're not just empty, they're emptied. Something was here, something ended. And now, I walk through the aftermath. In closing, the metro tunnels of Fallout 3 are more than a level. They're a mood, a memory, a monument. The game engine, with all its imperfections, captures that mood with uncanny precision. It doesn't polish the horror, it lets it rot. And in that rot, I find something beautiful, something terrifying, something worth revisiting. These tunnels were once arteries of life. Now they're veins of death. And every time I descend, I feel the weight of that transformation, not just as a player, but as a witness.